We are still on it. Daybreak Wednesday or Daybreak Midweek. Like we promised you, where we just had the first phase of main discussion for today, and we're now on to the second phase. In order to consolidate our democracy and strengthen the electoral process, the Southern Governors Forum has rejected the removal of the electronic transmission of the election result from the Electoral Act, and also rejected the confirmation of exclusive jurisdiction in the pre-election matters in the Federal High Court. Right now, we'll be focusing on electronic voting and the controversial clauses behind the bill. And here to help us thrash out the emerging issues on this very subject is Biodun Showumi, public affairs analyst. Welcome, sir, to the program.
Welcome to this program.
I'm pleased to be here. Good morning.
Yeah. Now, it is trending, but a lot of Nigerians out there don't even know what is going on. Could you throw light on this electoral thing, what it was before, and talking about the amendments?
Yes, we had the Electoral Act, enacted to govern the process of elections in the country. Along the line, we saw the imperfections of it. There were reported cases and proven cases of results falsification.
Okay.
Leading to so many court judgments. In some cases, changing the calendar of elections in the country, like in the case of Osun State, you have a different date, Kogi and some other few places. So, of course, there was the need to look into it and how do you fix the problem? Yes, we decided to embrace electronic voting. Let me put it this way. We decided to use technology to resolve some of those challenges, rising from voters list compilation and all that, rather than manual compilation. So we introduced element of it into it. But when we got to the point of transmitting results, we realized that the courts again rejected it. The last rejection was these Abubakar articles in 2018, the last election, that is not recognized by law. So basically what it means is...
What was not recognized by law?
Transmission of results.
Electronically?
Voting. Yes,
okay.
electronically.
Okay.
So that is, you need to again still rely on the hard copy paper.
The manual approach.
The manual approach. Don't forget, article produced so many experts. Look, these are the compilation of the results, the way they were transmitted. But the court rejected that. So we were back in we're back to square one. So, and then we had to look at it and again modernize our electoral system. One of the things that we needed to do is to change the mode of transmission of result, because from one polling point to the other, you cannot release the results. You are not allowed to do that until when it gets to the collation center, when it's all collated and released only by one person, the resident electoral commissioner, not even the electoral officer. The electoral officer must get that result to the resident electoral commission. So during that process, it takes days, in some cases 24 to 48 hours, before you know the outcome of an election, in each area. So of course that cannot be right. Allowed for speculation, allowed for falsification of results, and people end up telling you, go to court. So in order to frustrate the antics of those who are experts in manipulation of results, there's a need for electronic voting and electronic transmission of results. So that is the stage where we are now. For one reason or the other, the two committees of the two chambers in the National Assembly jointly agreed to allow electronic voting, but for some curious reasons, the Senate decided to expunge it, from its own version. I understand that they're now trying to bring it back. Okay, fine. But the problem is that why would they think about removing it?
Okay, I was going to come to that before you asked that question. Why would it? Why, in your opinion, why do you think there was a motive behind removing it, because like you said, this should make things easier. This should make collation of results easier. So could it be there might have been a motive behind the removal of the electronic?
Is the removal or the move to remove it political somehow, directly or indirectly?
You know, there are possible reasons. There are those who are not used to modern technology. They are not technology friendly. There's element of that who are afraid, oh, they could manipulate the results again electronically. I can end up winning the election and some people are transmitting a different one. Then there are those who, because of their own pecuniary interest, they knew how they got into the Senate.
To the office.
To start with. So if they allowed electronic voting, how would it be possible to return them into office when they know in reality they are not popular in their local areas, but they managed to get elected? They have benefited from that process and they wouldn't want to change. So it's a combination of factors, you know, driving the issue of rejection of electronic voting. But that is not all, because both houses will still need to meet and harmonize, and in that situation, the House of Reps is the majority. So we may still end up having electronic voting back in the calendar. But it tells you the mind of an average politician.
Yeah.
They have not repented. They are not genuinely, not all of them, but a significant number of them in position of power are not genuinely, you know, repentant. You know, they are not remorseful about the conduct of election, and they still think that they can continue to lord themselves over the rest of the country. Don't forget that the demographic changes in the country is also a factor. Many of them know that if in reality the youth wake up, they will not be in office. The youths are not only technology savvy, not because they will manipulate it, but because of the numbers. 60% of the population are now youths. But these are people of my own age or older than I who are occupying the place. And what's our percentage? So they already know that they need to, one way or the other, you know, make sure that they're able to return back to the Senate, because Nigerian politicians never want to leave office. And that is the situation we find ourselves in. And that is why we have the kind of leadership we have in the country today, you know, bureaucratic leadership. That's what we have in place now. So you would expect them to continue to do that. But public pressure, you know, would get them to change eventually, like what is going on now. Public pressure, public concerns, they're now looking into it and say, okay, maybe we'll bring it back again. That's where we are now.
Okay, now, would you think certain factors may have informed this move to remove the electronic voting system? For instance, during the Edo governorship election, it was employed, it was used, right? And it was a hard-fought battle, you know, between the two parties, PDP, APC. And at the end of the day, APC didn't see it coming, but eventually PDP emerged winner. That shock, I don't think they have gotten out of it yet. They may think if things should continue this way, probably they will keep losing. Hence, let's make a move and ensure that. Then why should Senate support this move, knowing that it is not genuine, it is not in the best interest of the rest of Nigerians?
You need to look at the present Senate, you know, as it is. The Senate is more or less an appendage of the executive arm of the government. Whatever the executive thinks is what the Senate is doing. The House of Reps is only a little bit better because it's not only mainly populated by the same political party, but the appointment of key officers in those two chambers were highly influenced by political considerations of the ruling party. So that's made it very clear that they're likely going to dance to the tune of the executives. One would have thought when it comes to economic development, security, you know, unity of the country, yes, that would be a good thing because at least the government can speak with one voice, both the executive and legislature. But we have seen how the legislature on their home part, when it comes to major issues of security, are withdrawn. When it comes to issues of food security, being threatened by Fulani headsmen, they are also withdrawn. We've not heard their voices. Like what the youth, if I can speak their language, Sorosoke. We have not heard them Sorosoke, So these are the major problems which you see with the current Senate. Rather, the Senate has been used as a bulwark, to arrest the political development of the country in different ways. There are so many copious examples of what they have done in recent times that it's making many people worry about the trajectory, of our political development in the country. So it's quite worrisome. So the attitude they are adopting again on the issue of electronic voting, speaks volume. Why are we doing this to ourselves?
Very questionable.
Okay,
Look, at this age in Rwanda,
I wonder,
drone is being used to drop medication in rural areas. Drone.
Can you imagine?
The first country in Africa. Why are we even why should we even be debating this to start with?
It's not debatable. It's not controversial.
Okay,
It shouldn't be.
I was going to raise up something you mentioned earlier. You talked about public pressure possibly leading to a change in vote of the agreement they reached, that's the House. Now, the Southern governors met this week, and they were vehemently against the agreement of the House on the use of electronic voting. Do you think the pressure from the Southern governors could possibly influence the agreement the House reached earlier?
Oh yeah, I have no doubt. I'm not in any doubt that many people express their concerns, youths and adults, so many civil society groups. The governors also helped. When you have all the Southern governors speaking, the same language, then I think the Senate had the message and said, look, there'll be problems if we don't look into this issue again. Don't forget, all along, not until the last 2 months, we've never had all the Southern governors speaking with one voice. What you have is all the Northern governors speaking with one voice, and then we now suddenly have the Southern governors speaking with one voice. Only two statements, made so far, and then we've seen the first one, the government is shivering over it, wondering and taking panicky measure, making so many errors and all that. And the second one, we've seen the legislature, the Senate suddenly now reviewing their position, saying, no, we'll bring it back. So that will tell you what pressure can do. When people speak out, either through the civil society group, expressing their opinion on media, in any form, it can help the cause of changing the direction. If we're heading towards the wrong direction, at least we can arrest it. Either you stop where you are, or we can change the direction to move forward.
Now let's talk about the possibility of Nigeria drifting towards one-party system. Because when you consider the rate at which politicians are jumping ship these days, it's quite alarming. Do you ever imagine such happening?
Well, in the first instance, the reason why politicians are moving from one party to the other is simply because we do not have ideological parties. All the parties are just existing in vacuum. No ideological base, they are not grounded in anything. What do they represent? That's the issue. So when you see people with uncommon interest, coming together, you can sleep today in APC and wake up tomorrow morning in PDP. That's not a problem. Or even by afternoon, you've already started forming your own new political party. Totally, this can only happen in Nigeria. But one thing we need to bear in mind is that in a multicultural, multi-ethnic country,
such as Nigeria,
secular country, it is almost impossible to have one political party. You need to read in between the lines. What I see is about the implosion of APC. Many people are now moving in with the view that by the time the party will implode, probably in a year's time, and then you see a new formation coming out of it. That is what I think is going on. If you remember that we used to have new PDP, led by the Amichis of this world at that point in time when they left the PDP, to diminish its chances of winning election. What you see is people moving first and then they now move out. So that is what I think is going on now. We've been having speculation being denied. a former president wanting to form a political party. He has an idea. But we've seen, you know, strange, sudden movement into a political party. But if you trust politicians, they are really at works, working on something. We will move in and then explode it and then pull out. I think that's what's going on.
Wow. Let's talk about youth participation. It's never been the case, and the youth really, they have been restless. They really want to have places of importance given to them, politically speaking. But they've not been very active when it comes to participating in election processes. Now, when we had the hashtag #EndSARS, the sorry circuit or whatever you mentioned, you know, everybody was like, the youth have woken up, so we are going to expect something dramatic to happen come 2023. Do you think it is real? Do you think the youth are now up to participate actively in election this time around?
Yes, the youth of Nigeria today have woken up, but where is the measure of social consciousness in terms of the direction to follow? When you look at even the present leadership, one of the governors you can describe as a youth is Yahaya Bello.
Yes.
You know, but we could see that he was governor ta. You know, that is, once you have the wrong crop of youths in power, which is what is being encouraged by the political class, at the end of the day, we'll all get frustrated by it again. We need youths that have a high measure of political and social consciousness, you know, to move in and take over power. I don't think the future of the country lies with people like me anymore, of my age group upward. I don't think we are the one to design.
Others do not realize it. They want to remain there.
They want to remain there because we can no longer, you know, construct the future of this country. Forget it. The youths who are the ones to live in it should be the one to design the country that they want to live in. People like me will probably end up in one room being taken care of by my children. But that's the truth.
I hope others will think the same way.
No, but, well, we are not helping ourselves.
We're not.
We
We're
keep
not.
trying to behave as if the youths, people of 30, 20, 35, we keep treating them as if they are still babies and kids. I understand that paternalistic approach to it. But the fact of the matter is they are not kids. Once you are over 18, in line with the law, we need to move back. Our leaders need to rethink what they are doing. We need to embark on a deliberate policy of empowering the youth, politically speaking. But what you see going on is that we povertize the youths. Once they don't have jobs, you won't have to worry about, you are threatened with food security.
Yeah.
Why would you think about politics? So we keep them down with a view to come with a handout towards election and get them to do our biddings. Whereas the youth should begin to think that they genuinely need to support, you know, other youths who are struggling to gain political relevance in terms of seeking elective offices. And more of the youth needs to move in there. Power is not serve a la carte. You have to grab it.
You have to,
You have to go for it.
work for it. Thank you so very much, Biodun. We've been speaking with Biodun Showumi. He's a public affairs analyst, and you can agree with me, he did justice to that segment of the show. And at this juncture, we'll be taking a breather. When we come back, sports lovers, I know you are ready and itching to go. Don't mind, we ain't gonna disappoint you. And that will happen directly when we come back. Stay with us.